Uh, so hi guys, thank you for tuning in. I'm Yash Tanna, research analyst at ithought PMS. Today we are going to talk about the rail logistics sector and one of the most important infrastructure development probably in the country going on. Let's start off. So firstly, looking at the overall logistics sector, currently the logistics sector is valued at $282 billion as of FY23 and is expected to grow at a CAGR of close to 8% until 2030. So broadly, the multiplier for logistics is 1.1 to 1.2 times of GDP growth. So that's broadly how we can look at it. And if you look at the modal split, or how the goods can be transported, there are mainly four ways. It's either road, rail, coastal shipping, or air transport. So if we look at our country's modal split, road constitutes the majority pie, followed by railways, then coastal shipping, and then air transport, which is very small. And if we look at the majority of the market, right, especially in the road transport side, majority of the market is very fragmented and unorganized in nature. Sorry. And this means that there are many, unorganized small-time fleet operators, probably having a fleet of less than 10 trucks or something, which operate, and that is why and that is why there is, a lot of inefficiencies in the system. Uh, Coming to how the freight traffic has moved. So between 2015 and 2020, India's GDP grew by approximately 32%, right? And the population grew by about 5%, and the freight demand grew by almost by approximately 28%. Now, with this background, we the projection is that GDP growth will be between 7 to 8% in the next 5 years, and the demand for good movements is also expected to be around the same range, which was lower in the last 5 years. And when we look at the goods movement, right, so it's approximately 3 trillion ton kilometers. So this is the total distance traveled by all goods in the country. So it's 3 trillion ton kilometers currently, which is expected to go to 15.6 trillion ton kilometers, which is almost more than 5x by 2050. So that again translates to a broad 7 to 8% CAGR. So that's broadly how the good movement is expected to grow going forward in the country. Now, coming to India's logistics cost. So if we look at India's logistics cost as a percentage of GDP, right, it's about 14% right now, and the government wants to bring this down closer to 10%, or the high single digits. That's the government's target, and which is where the developed nations are. If you look at US, if you look at Europe, or if you look at the BRICS nations, the range is anywhere between 10 to 12%, and that is what India is also aiming for, because an efficient logistics infrastructure helps reduce costs on the overall P&L for all companies, and can improve profitability for all companies. Looking at the rail logistics landscape now, so if you look at the modal split, of different nations, so here you have taken China, US, Europe, and then India. So modal split, if you look at China and Europe, if just look at these two first. If you look at China and Europe, the yellow portion, which is the waterways, is higher for China and Europe, and which is followed by road. And similarly, if we look at US, for a matter of fact, the gray portion, which is railways, is slightly higher, and then again followed by road. Air is very less for all because of the cost of logistics by air. But so the main thing is that China and Europe has a higher share of waterways, while US has a higher share of railways. And if you look at India, it's more dominant towards the road, which is the green pie, followed by rail, which we saw. Now the modal split of freight, it broadly depends on a few factors. The important ones being the geography pattern of that country, how the cities or the main cities are located, and what is the policy focus of that country towards logistics. As I said, US's modal split is more towards rail, and EU and China is more towards coastal shipping. One of the reasons, as I said, geography. So geography is nothing but the ratio of coast length to landmass. This ratio is nothing but how much your how much of your important cities are connected to the port. So the connectivity to the ports based on your geography is what ratio of coast length to landmass is. So if you look at Europe, it's very high, and if you look at India and US, it's on the lower side, and that's what sort of explains high seaways modal split for Europe versus India and US. Uh, when you have a higher ratio of coastal landmass, then waterways is a more dominant mode of transport, and that's more easier mode of transport. And the second is, the average lead distances. The average lead distance is nothing but, the amount of kilometers traveled by the goods from your destination of origin. Sorry, your goods from the origin to the destination port. So from where it is being transported to, let's say, from the northern part of the country to the western part of the country, and from there it gets exported. So from north to west will be your average lead distance. And if you look at the average lead distances, India leads the way. India has the highest average lead distance when compared to US or Europe, because of the movement that happens in the country from different parts of the country to the ports. And for long haul transport, which is usually where the lead distances are higher, more than 350, 400, kilometers, rail transport offers the best possible solution because it's the lowest cost, and the emissions are much lower versus the road transport. So the takeaways for it is that India has a relatively low, coast to landmass ratio, and hence the split of seaways is very low. However, if you look at the lead distances, India's lead distances are much higher, and therefore rail could be a very ideal mode of transport for India versus currently we are dominated by road, but rail could be a very ideal mode of transport for India. But unlike the US, unlike the US, India heavily uses the passenger rail. So our passenger traffic is significantly higher than United States. US does not. US passenger traffic is very less compared to the freight traffic, and hence India needs to significantly invest more into rail for the freight movement. Yeah. When we look at the rail market share versus the road market share over a very long period of time, this is from 1951, so almost 72 years back from where we have the data. Road market share only was 12% in 1951, which has moved up to 74%, right? And similarly, rail, which was 88%, has significantly dropped down to 26%. So road is always a preferred mode of transport for shorter lead distances, which is probably less than 300 kilometers. But over the last 2 decades, which is from 2000s, rail has lost market share even in longer lead distances. This is again we'll come to the reasons why this has happened. But this is the data where road has become a significantly dominant share of modal transport in India. Yeah. So what were the reasons? One of the reasons was significant underinvestment in rail versus road. So if we look at the total tracks laid in 1951, it was 78,000 kilometers, which has moved to 127,000 kilometers, and it's only grown at a 0.5% CAGR. While if we look at the road length, the road length which was laid has grown at a 4% CAGR. So almost 8 times higher, road investments have been done versus rail. And the second reason is passenger traffic, as I said. When we look at India's passenger traffic, is significantly higher when we compare it to other nations. So if you look at US, where the modal split for rail is higher, the passenger traffic, the ratio of passenger traffic to freight traffic is just 1%, right? If you look at China, it's close to 50%. Germany is close to 70%. But for India, it's almost 2x. It's close to 185%. So the number of kilometers traveled for passengers is significantly higher than for freight. Whereas if we look at the profitability, of the segment, so clearly the Indian Railways has compensated losses which are, accruing from the passenger operations with freight operations. On the left-hand chart, we can see that passenger operations are operating at significant losses versus freight operations. That's where Indian Railways has prioritized Indian Railways has prioritized passenger movement versus freight movement throughout the years. And if we look at the movement in kilometer wise, so how many kilometers has moved for passenger and how many kilometers have been traveled for freight. If you look at that data, almost 60 to 65% of the movement has happened for passenger traffic. But when it's come to revenues, how much revenues are generated for freight versus passenger, freight constitutes a larger pie. So I'll just show you that data. Uh, Passenger kilometers traveled was almost 64% to 60 to 64%. In terms of kilometers traveled, passenger is higher, whereas freight is almost 40%. But if we come to the earnings, earnings is complete opposite. So passenger earnings is only 30%, while the freight earnings is almost 70%. So though more kilometers are being traveled for passengers, but the earning wise, it's the complete opposite. This is from Indian Railways annual report. A few, reasons, where we can look that Indian Railways is being very lenient, with the passenger services. So there's a revenue foregone. There's a concession given of 106 crores. Then there is from certain lines, Kolkata, Mumbai, Secunderabad. There is an overall loss of 8,300 crores in FY22, and this is just because the passenger fares haven't risen in line with inflation. And there's a data point for ticketless travel. So almost 273 lakh cases of ticketless travel, were detected. This is almost 8 to 10% of the passenger volumes that are traveling. These are few of the reasons, and it shows that Indian Railways is pretty lenient with the passenger traffic. Now coming to DFC, so can DFC be a game changer, for rail logistics? Coming to the overview, so the Ministry of Railways made this announcement for DFC while presenting the railways budget for 2005 and 6. I'm sorry. Gopinath, is the screen visible? I think it's just got. Yeah, hello. Yeah, it's visible, right? Sorry? Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Thanks. Sorry. Yeah. So coming to the overview, so the Ministry of Railways, made the announcement for DFC when they're presenting the railway budget for 2005-2006. The mission for this infrastructure project, is for the railways to regain its lost market share in the modal split, right? Because by creating, so the DFC can create additional capacity. They can guarantee times for your goods to reach at a particular port in a specified given time, which is currently not happening on the Indian Railways existing network because of prioritizing passenger freight. And So the mission was to regain the lost market share of railways in the modal split. If you look at the funding, the eastern and the western dedicated freight corridor combined was estimated. The estimated cost was close to 81,000 crores, 81,500 crores. The Western DFC, which is close to operationalizing, is funded by the Japan International Cooperation Agency via a loan. Almost $645 billion is the total amount that will be the funding, for the Western DFC. Yeah. Coming to the features of the DFC, so the DFC is designed in a very interesting way where it can provide time reliability, it can increase capacity on the same existing network for the railways, and it can significantly reduce the cost per unit for the railways. So a few of the features of the DFC are a higher axle load. So a higher axle load means that a higher amount of load will be carried by the same wagon, but the track will be able to support that higher axle load, and this will lead to the operators will have to buy lower amount of stock. The wagons, they'll have to buy a lower amount of rolling stock to load up probably the same or higher freight on the same wagon, and this can reduce the cost per unit, right? It will also reduce the capital cost because they'll buy lower rolling stock, and this savings in cost can be passed on to regain market share from road, right? Higher speeds. Currently, the problem is that the speed movement is very low. It's at 25 kilometers. The DFC is designed for designed that the average speed of the train can be between 65 to 75 kilometers, and the highest it can go is almost 100 kilometers. So this will sort of guarantee time reliability and will shorten the transit time for the movement of goods, and another important parameter for the people to choose rail versus road. And increase in length of train. So currently the train length is close to 700 meters. That can be increased to almost double to 1500 meters. And again, double stacking. So double stacking is a very important phenomenon where currently I think only a single container is being stacked, and in double stacking, one more container above the other container can be stacked, which can significantly improve the loading capacity of the train. So this is a visual demographic of the same. If you look, the height and the width is being increased by 66 and 14% respectively. The train length is almost is being doubled. The load, the train load, which can if a train can carry 5400 tons currently, it can almost carry 12,000 tons currently. So in a single trip, significantly higher amount of load can be carried, which will reduce the costing for the CTOs. Yeah, and again, axle load and average speed. So these are a few of the important design features that the DFC aims to cover. What are the expected benefits? So this is from the annual report of DFC, and what they are estimating is that the modal split can go up to 40 to 45%, in the coming years. The operations and maintenance cost can be reduced significantly, almost 60% can be reduced, and they are aiming to pass this on to the customers to regain the share. Yeah. And the double stacking, that will happen on the DFC, and a lot of train operators like Concor, CDL, they have been, increasing their double stacking trains year over year. This will improve to, this will improve the throughput per train by almost 300%. So the efficiency kicking in the system will be much higher. So what is the current status of the DFC? If you look at the status, so currently the Western DFC from Dadri to JNPT Currently, from Dadri to Vaitarna, the green line, which is has been completely commissioned, and the Mundra and Pipavav ports, which are somewhere in Gujarat, have been they are connected by the feeder routes, so they can enjoy the facilities of the DFC. While the last stretch, which is the Vaitarna from JNPT, about 102 kilometers, that is the one which is left. Uh, why the last stretch is significantly important is because the JNPT port is a significant port when it comes to containerized traffic in India, and I will show you the data when in the subsequent slides, and that is expected to be commissioned by March 25. So, what do the container operators like Concor and GDL, Gateway District Parks, have to say on the connectivity to GNPT? So, what they are saying is the rail coefficient, which is the rail market share to JNPT, is very less. It's in the range of 18 to 19%. And what they are saying is once the DFC is commissioned for JNPT, in 2 years' time, the rail coefficient can go to almost 25 to 30%. So there can be significant increase in the rail market share in the JNPT port, which is currently very less. Sorry. And here he's given an example of how he can run timetable trains. Where Concor has started running timetable trains, they have been able to gain some amount of volumes from road. So what he's saying is when they can run timetable trains even to JNPT, where the transit time can be as where the transit times can be as low as 24 hours for to reach JNPT, and this kind of service from Delhi to JNPT is almost 24 hours. That's a very lower transit time compared to the current and road. He's saying that that kind of service even road cannot provide. Similarly, what GDL is saying again, he's saying that there should be more of costing benefits because double stacking will be coming in, and turnaround time will also improve, and the existing fleet will be they'll be able to utilize the existing fleet better. This will result to a cost saving, and this can be either this they are planning to pass on to the customer to gain more of volumes. One more interesting thing that he said is that a lot of cargo which is time sensitive cargo, which currently rail is not targeting, can be targeted once the GNPT leg is completed. Yeah, and again, I think it's on the very similar lines where they are saying that the shipping lines can, opt for rail, possibly. And one interesting thing is that he's saying that not all the, CTOs have a pan India license, so not everyone can be going to GNPT. So they specifically have a GNPT license, and they'll gain more share out of it. Now let's look at the entire landscape of EXIM container volumes of the country and where the volumes are coming from. So the majority of the volumes, if we look at, are on the west coast of India. So if you look at the three main ports, which is Mundra, Pipavav, and JNPT, they are getting the majority of EXIM container trade in India. So the market share is almost 75% for the west coast ports, right? And if you look at the rail coefficient for Mundra and JNPT, it's still lower. It's around 15 to 20%, while Pipavav is higher. It's more than 60%. Whereas we look at if you look at where the volumes are coming from. So for Mundra and Pipavav, the main volumes are coming from the northern hinterland markets, which is NCR, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, UP. So these markets are primary markets for the Mundra and Pipavav traffic. Whereas if you look at the JNPT port, the western part, which is Mumbai, Pune, Nasik, Nagpur, these are the primary markets for the JNPT port, right? And this is in terms of numbers. So total container traffic is close to 19 million TEUs, out of which almost 13 million TEUs is contributed by these three ports, JNPT, Mundra being the significant ones. And the other ports is close to 6 million TEUs. When we look at the rail volumes, right? JNPT is only 1 million TUs, which is only a 17% rail coefficient, right? Mundra is close to a 26% rail coefficient, and Pipa is 60% plus. So the overall rail coefficient, if you look at the western coast ports, is close to 24% only, where a significant amount of exempted containers are being transported. Only 24% of the rail coefficient, rail has market share. Right, and here is the split, as I said. So for JNPT, majority of the traffic is coming from the western India, whereas for Mundra and Pipavav, a significant amount of traffic is coming from the northern part, which is almost for Mundra is 83%, for Pipavav is 72%, right? And for JNPT, 64% is coming from western India. Now, if you look at the volumes over the last decade or slightly more than a decade, 11, 12 years, the total container volumes in TEUs have grown at a 6% CAGR, right? And if you look at Concourse volumes, which is one of the largest, container train operators, their volumes have grown at a 4.5%. So their market share in, container volumes is close to 20%, and this is not rail container volumes, but total container volumes. Their market is close to 20%. So 20, and it has gone dropped down slightly to 18%. Similarly, if you look at Gateway, their volumes have grown at a 6.2% CAGR, and they've maintained their market share around the 1.8% mark. And yeah, so Gateway has slightly grown faster than Concorde in terms of container volumes. Now, what can the numbers look like if we can achieve 30% rail coefficient by 2030, which is one of the targets for the DFCCI, right? Now, rail, if we take 30% rail coefficient, the rail volumes can grow at a 10% CAGR versus historical 6%. Below is the calculation. So we can go from almost 2 crore TUs to 2.88 crore TUs if the rail coefficient improves from 24% to 30%. And the IR volumes can improve significantly from 48 to 86 lakhs, right? And that can grow at a 10%. So the industry level volume growth can go from a 6% to a 10%. And players who have a better connectivity via ICDs on the DFC, or who have as GDL said that they can garner higher share in the JNPT volumes. These operators can grow faster than 10%. So final thoughts. I think DFC can be a major project which can help bring down India's logistic costs. It can improve profitability for the CTOs. They'll be able to use their assets in a more productive way with a better throughput, and rail will be more competitive towards road for sure, and can potentially garner more market share going forward, which will improve the industry volumes. Yeah, these are the sources that I've used for this PPT, Indian Railways TFCCIL, and company documents and an Accurus initiating report. Coming to True Blue, which is our blue chip large cap fund. So what is the ithought way and what is our investment philosophy? So we usually focus on the long term. There's a non-consistent thinking. There's a bottom-up approach and a high focus on risk management. If you look at what we are trying to capture in our True Blue portfolio, right? So we are trying to capture India's growth story and also the global champions. The export-dominated areas where Indian companies can emerge as global champions. What is the USP of True Blue? So it's 100% pure large cap, concentrated portfolio. There's a high active share. There's a very low churn. Usually we have a buy and a hold strategy. The fixed fees, there are zero fixed fees, so it's performance based. And as I said, it's a completely large cap portfolio. So we have 23 stocks, large cap, no small and mid cap stocks. Uh, I said that there is a higher, active share. So if you look at the top five stocks for True Blue and Nifty, it's 40% and 39.9%, 40.3 and 39.9. But if you look at the top 10, for True Blue is 24.5% versus Nifty is 17%, and subsequently for top 15 and 20. Uh, and on the right hand side, you can see the top 10 stocks, for Nifty 50 and top 10 for True Blue. That's how we take an active share. This slide, is explaining drawdowns in bad market environments. So one such case is, 17 June 2022, where the Nifty, had, almost down by 17% over a period of time. And these are the other funds like Axis, UTI, Franklin, Blue Chip, and performance of these other funds, whereas we were anywhere down between 22 to 14%, whereas the True Blue had a drawdown of only 12%. So it's a significantly lower drawdown versus the Nifty and comparable peers. This is another example as of 28 March 23, right, where Nifty was down by 10% and True Blue was down by 5%, and comparable peers were slightly more than True Blue. Yeah. So what is our endeavor? Our endeavor is to deliver 200 to 300 basis points an additional of an excess return versus the benchmark, and the time frame that we look at is usually a 3-year rolling period. Yeah. So here are this is the fact sheet, fund details, 51 crores AUM. Right. There's an investment team, obviously, founder and fund manager Mr. Sham Shekhar, and GR Balaji sir. He's the head of research and co-fund manager for True Blue. And we also have another set of people in the research, strategy, product management, and investment management side. And here's the performance as on 30th June 24. And here are the key terms. I think a minimum investment of 50 lakhs, right? And there are two options for fees. Yeah. I think I'm done. Thanks for attending, and if you have any questions, we can take that now. Gopinath. Have you ended the box? Yeah. So which stock we can take advantage of railways, sir? I don't think I can talk on stock specific advice, but the container train operators are the ones that will benefit out of the DFC infrastructure development. Yeah, so as I said, which are the companies? So the container train operators, as I mentioned a few of the snippets from the con calls, where they are saying how they can, gain advantage of the efficiency of the DFC, and probably once the JNPT port commissions. A few of the container train operators, in my opinion, could be the ones that could be beneficial from this infrastructure development. The railway stocks, I don't think we can bucket everything in one segment. Probably the railway stocks you are referring to are not the railway logistics ones, where they are probably the ones that are manufacturing for railways or providing a few other services. And the ones that we focused on today are the ones that will use railways as a means of transport for their that is the primary business of these container train operators. And anything in Bridi PMS, I am not sure if I can answer that question. Sorry, sir. Yeah, so industries that are significantly probably using roads as a means of transport. So there is one company, a large cap automaker, large cap auto guy who uses road was a primary road initially was a primary mode of transport, and now if we look at their data of how much number of vehicles they are transporting via rail, it is increasing year on year. I think if this happens more and more, then any industry, probably automaker, which I'm talking about, he is one of the largest automakers in the country. He is increasing his modal split towards rail. So yeah, I think they should benefit. Uh, I am not sure. Which companies are doing business with a huge debt compared to the other sectors. So if we look at a couple of container train operators, or even a couple of road express players, I don't think there is a significant amount of debt on their balance sheet. So that shouldn't be a problem. The balance sheet is in a pretty good shape, I believe. Yeah, so does rail logistic operators have a high growth opportunity going forward? So as I said, the industry volumes over the last 10, 12 years, or even before that, have grown just at a 6% CAGR, right? And if the rail coefficient, which is only 24% in the EXIM containerized trade, if that 24% can go to 30%, can go to 40, 45%, which is the long-term target, then industry volumes, which was a biggest pain point for these CTOs, that gets resolved. And it's a win-win for everyone, right? If the volume, if the rail coefficient can improve, then definitely I think the volumes can grow faster going forward. Yeah, I think I hope that answers your question, Karthik. Yeah, in multimodal logistics, I think DFC definitely. So multimodal logistics means that you use multiple modes of transport, be it seaways, be it railways or roadways, last mile, for your goods to reach the final destination in a most efficient way, or a cost efficient way, or an emission efficient way, whichever works for you. So definitely, I think DFC will enable higher share of rail in the modal split, and that is why it will be a key factor for multimodal logistics. What is the sectoral position allocation in True Blue holding and in the future as well? So True Blue, for our universe for True Blue is Nifty 50, and specific sectoral position, I think you can get back, you can get in touch with my team. They will present you with a fact sheet which will give you a more clearer picture. What about the current valuation of the sector? So again, here when I talk about the sector, it's not the railway sector. where I'm not talking about the players that are making wagons for the railways, or companies which are providing other services which are skyrocketed in the past 1.5 years. These are container train operators which move container traffic from the origin to the destination ports. Uh, in that sense, if we talk about valuations, the valuations of these specific subset of companies is nowhere close to where the other company valuations of railways are. I hope that answers the question, Shankar. Any more questions? Gopinath, can you see any more questions? All right. No, sir, I don't believe so. I don't believe that there is an index mutual fund which is solely focused on this subsegment, because it's a very small number of companies to pick on or to make a product from. So you can take exposure probably, but I don't believe. I'm not sure. Maybe you'll have to check otherwise, but I'm not. I'm pretty sure there's nothing like that. Yeah, so that's in planning stages. So there are a couple of other dedicated freight corridors, southern, that connects the south, probably the one which connects the north-south corridor as well. So in all, if I remember, there are more than four such DFCs. Two of them which are out of the planning stage and almost implementation or more than implementation stage, which is the western and the eastern dedicated freight corridor. But yeah, there are. It is in the planning for the southern India. I think the wait is to see how the success pans out for these two freight corridors. So yeah, that's. I hope that answers the question. So I think in the freight forwarding business, I think there is All Cargo, which is a major player, right? GDL does some bit of freight forwarding. There's some bit of done by Concor as well. But yeah. So the key beneficiaries would obviously be the ones that would enjoy benefits of the improved volume growth. But one more, another key beneficiary could also be companies that are, mainly focusing on multimodal logistics, where they are also using other ways of transport, and that can be combined with rail, and so these kind of companies can benefit. But if we look at the other significant portion, which is road, be it FTL or PTL, right? Here the volumes are being, the thinking is that volumes will shift from road to rail, It won't be a benefit. Moreover, it will be a competition for the road players if rail becomes more competitive with this infrastructure. I hope that answers your question. What do you say? I think for the port operators, it will be more or less status quo, or rather than that, if the industry volumes improve, if the container exim trade volumes improve, then probably they will have more of, freight mix change internally versus, so there'll be an internal product mix change, if I were to say, rather than anything else. Like Gopinath, is there anything from YouTube? Okay, so I guess. Are there any more questions you can see, Gopinath? I think the last one was the port one. Yeah, so as I said, for the road logistics players, the competitive intensity can increase solely because there will be some portion of traffic that will be targeted, which is currently moving from road, but that can move to rail, which can be beneficial for the customer as well, and that is why there can be some increase in the competitive intensity for the road logistics players. Yeah, this is the YouTube question. Is Gateway District Parks a beneficiary? Uh, I'm sorry, I don't think I can answer stock specific queries, but Gateway District Parks is definitely a container train operator. Any more questions, Govina? So, should we close it? All right. Thank you guys again for attending this webinar. Hope you found it insightful. Thanks again.